Hello, friends. How's it going? It's Matty listening to Looking Sideways Action Sports podcast. It's the show where I try and uncover the most fascinating stories in action sports and other related endeavours. Thanks for checking this one out. Hope you enjoy the episode. How's it going? Everyone all right out there? So this is an episode I've been trying to get off the ground for a while, and I'm very glad that I did. That's because my guest this week is the inspirational Dan Mancina. Dan's a skateboarder who is, as his Instagram bio puts it, blind and changing how people see. I'll give you the brief backstory in case you've not come across Dan before, so you've got the context ahead of our episode. So Dan was born with a hereditary degenerative eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa, I think that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if I've got that wrong, which began to affect him when he was in his early 20s, which eventually led to him losing his sight completely within a few years. Now, obviously, as it's going to be for anybody who loses their sight, this was a huge physical and emotional blow to Dan, who eventually decided to use his condition to try and overturn the preconceived ideas that most sighted people have about blindness by returning to his first love of skateboarding. And the story of what happened next as Dan learned to overcome his blindness and reclaim his identity as a skater has rightly proven to be one of the most inspirational, that word again, and humbling in skateboarding. I think it's because it's a story that speaks to us on many different levels. For all sighted people, the prospect of going blind is a really frightening prospect. It's one of them where you know it strikes at something primal, really. And I think everybody's probably wondered how we'd handle it if it ever happened to us at some point. It's the type of there but for the grace of God thing. We tend to shy away from really thinking about that closely because we're scared of what our reaction might reveal about our own character. So on one level, it is a story about how Dan overcame this physical condition to skate again, and like I say, to reclaim his condition for himself. But really, it's a story of personal identity and the strength it takes to not let yourself be defined by the physical changes that come from diagnoses of illness and disease. In its way, it's a bit of a companion piece, really, to my recent episode with Tim Baker, which if you've not checked out, I very, very much suggest that you do, because it covers similar ground and is, third time lucky, as inspirational as this conversation with Dan. Now, I'm very grateful to Dan for trusting me with this one and for being so honest about his life as a blind person and a blind skateboarder. I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. Here's me and Dan Mancina. Enjoy. Nice, man. So you're off to, what you said, you're off to LA tomorrow?
Cali, yeah, back to Cali.
What's going on?
Just family stuff. Visiting family. No fun skate stuff, but yeah. I got family living down there, so I'm out there like almost every month. Pandemic,
right?
Willing. So
yeah, nice. Will that be a fun trip?
Yeah, always good, man. LA's. I mean, I lived there for a while out of high school, about 4.5 years, back and forth from Michigan to there, and I kind of got burnt out on Cali, and it's whatever to me. But now I have family there, so I go. I get my fix. It's nice during the winter here, when it's get to go there and thaw out, for a couple days, and then
because you're in like Detroit, right? So you get freezing winters, right?
Yeah, we'll be it's starting to chill out here right now. So once you hit end of December and all that stuff, it gets pretty cold. So, but I like it. I like the winter. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I was watching. I think it was the barracks thing, and I didn't realize that you started snowboarding first in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what are the hills like there? They must be pretty flat, right?
Yeah, they're tiny. They're like old garbage dumps that are closed down, and they, put a couple lifts on them. So it's nothing big, but still super fun, like little parks and stuff. So Yeah, that's kind of where it started for me. Was I love snowboarding when I was like a little gram, I guess, like 10 years old, 13, 14, 15.
Right.
And then, then there was, during the summer, can't snowboard. So I read some article in a snowboard mag, that said you can skate during the summer to keep you on point, kind of. And then that's kind of how I started really like actually skating around and doing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because it's normally the other way around, really. You often find that like kids, I mean, that's certainly how it was for me. Like I got into skating first, and then later on it was like snowboarding sort of came after that. So what was the like when you found skating, how was that then?
It was kind of a slow trickle, I guess, into my life. I also had this cousin who would come over for holidays and, like do little wheelies and spins on the board, and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then it wasn't really till I moved to a different city, moved from like East Detroit to Livonia, kind of these like suburbs outside of the city of Detroit, right?
Right.
And I moved and met like a group of kids who also skate. So this is right around like middle school, and that's kind of when I really dove heavily into it. Like started watching videos and started learning like, oh, there's this whole industry or this whole culture of like, these skaters that I grew to like, idolize and stuff like that through the videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And then just learned that, there's actually tricks that you can do. Because I was pushing around from like age 7 to like just like didn't know what skateboarding was. Like I literally it was just like transportation, I guess, for me. Pushing Mongo all over the place.
Yeah.
And yeah, then, but like I said, I met that group of kids, and that's when it really, I really fell in love with it.
So what year are we talking? Like what, you said you're watching videos and starting to look up to skaters. Like what was influential at this point for you?
So it was all the Zero videos that came out, like Misled Youth, all that stuff. On videos were big. 411s were big then. Like the heyday, right, of all these epic videos. You get like one or two videos a year. And they were just huge. So another big one was Chomp on This, was like one of my favorites. And then Trans World, going into that stuff. My all-time favorite vid is In Bloom, with Tony T. So that whole era, so going into, the early 2000s.
Yeah, like just before the internet changes it, and when it's still like the industry's based around like the big release, and that's kind of what's getting everybody amped, right? And you said, because I've read a little bit and know a little bit about the backstory from some of the other stuff that you've done. So you've talked about, and you mentioned earlier that you moved to Cali. So it sounds like you were pretty, from an early age, you were like, yeah, I want to do this. Like I want to skate and maybe try and take it as far as I can. Is that kind of how it was?
Yeah, I always wanted to, I guess be, like I said, like I idolized the skate, like Tony T and Jamie Thomas and like all these people I'd see on videos. Like I was like infatuated by that whole, seemed like the coolest thing to do. Kerry Getz, all these people. So it definitely was a dream to be able to support myself through skating. Was always a dream,
Yeah.
And then moving to Cali for sure, like jump right into it. Cause I had only, I didn't really know what the real industry was like. It's so different. You didn't know anything about it back then. Just being from, the Midwest and Michigan, and I thought it was completely different from, the business world, and it's very naive to think that it was its own kind of thing. separate from like every other job in the world, you know?
Yeah, well, you have to kind of learn that, don't you? Because obviously, when you get it from, especially back then as well, because you know those films, like we're saying, it's not like they put a barrier between ordinary skaters and the industry, but you know they're definitely like portraying a dream, aren't they? And they're definitely portraying like a lifestyle and making it, you know, and it's only when you kind of start understanding, like you say, a little bit of how the industry works, you sort of realize like it is actually work, isn't it? You know, these people are actually working really fucking hard, and it's super competitive, and you gotta be on it, and you gotta be, you know, and skating's, or whatever it is, snowboarding, surfing, whatever, like having the physical talent is one thing, but you got to learn to negotiate those worlds, don't you, as well?
Yeah, it's the whole thing. You know, it really turned me off of everything. Moving to LA and then working in the, like, just worked at like a surf skate snow shop, which was like the best job ever. ZJ's called ZJ Boarding House in Santa Monica.
Right.
Actually, just recently closed after like 33 years or something like that. But
oh man,
yeah, it was a bummer. But just learned a lot. You know, like going to ASR. You ever heard of ASR? Like the big trade shows back then.
Yeah, it's in Vegas, right?
This one was in it's San Diego or Santa Barbara. I don't know the difference. They're the same in my head.
That's a bit like me.
The
when
one
I go to
that's
California.
south of LA. Are they both
San
south?
San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, so it must have been San Diego. And just seeing that,
like
cool.
the big trade show, like everyone there, like in a hall and all that, right?
Yeah, it was cool. You know, it was like super fun and so rad to be a part of that, and actually, you know, it's like be able to see like, you know, pros in real life. You know, the dudes I just watched on videos was rad, but then you just realize, oh, this is it's pretty much run just like any other business. I mean, it has to be, right? It's that's just how things are. And I got turned off for sure. And the way it was like so cliquey back then, it kind of started to be like that. Like you had to be cool, you know, to fit in. And I come from, you know, Midwest. That time was just like, if you skate, you know, we're all friends. We're all down. Like we don't hate on somebody for somebody's style or anything like that.
Yeah.
Although now everywhere's like that. But back then it was super just, you know, it didn't matter who you are or the way you skated or what tricks you did. And then going to LA was like, at that time was crazy. Like, you know, you had to do the certain tricks. You had to fit this idea of what skateboarding was. And I wasn't into that part of it.
Right.
And I was over it.
Did you move back then? Did you head back east at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I still lived and worked at the shop. I actually had a son at that time, and then I moved back to go to school and stuff like that, and try to figure out life, you know, trying to support my son and stuff like that. So
yeah,
my whole life changed from that point as far as having a kid, and skateboarding was really took a back seat in my life.
Right.
And right around that same time, you know, like after my son turned around 2.5, 3 is when I stopped driving and my vision started getting worse. So that on top of it, skateboarding was just non-existent in my life.
Right.
Totally. It was the last thing on my mind. Like I had like decided like, yeah, I guess that's it. You know, I'm not a skateboarder anymore. I don't do that anymore. So
right.
I kind of totally hung it up, and I forgot about it and focused on school. And was just busting my ass in school I just finished last year. So it was talking about 12, like 6 years. 6 years of school.
What have you been studying?
Oh man, it's not a lot of things. You know, I barely passed high school, so I started like at a community college. Got an associate's in it's called aviation management. I thought I'd work somewhere in the airport.
Yeah.
And then finished that, and I went, and I was like, that's when I went, like, pretty much lost the majority of my vision.
Right.
So I
Okay.
kind of changed my whole life of like, okay, what does a blind person do? You know, what can I do as a blind person? And went into massage therapy. I did like a year program for that, and then finished another associates in applied science for that. And I worked like for a year as a massage therapist, like at a like a little, what was it called? Massage Green, I think. It's like a chain massage studio, you know?
Right.
And my life was just all over the point, all over the place at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I had separated me and my lady who I had my son with.
Right.
And yeah, she moved back to California. That's why I go there all the time for visits and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
So just hectic, you know, and then losing more vision.
So can I ask you about that then? So because it's obviously been like a degenerative condition, right? So it's well, firstly, if you could explain what it's called.
Yeah, it's called RP, they call it, or it's retinitis pigmentosa. So it's a degenerative eye disease that it's a hereditary disease. So you're born with it, and
Right.
it slowly deteriorates your vision throughout your life, and it's really different for every person. You know, some people, they lose their vision later in life, some earlier in life. So
Right. And does it always lead to complete sight loss?
Mostly, a lot of people might have a little bit of vision here and there.
Right.
You know, like a little chunk here, a little chunk there, for sure. It's really dependent on just each person. You know, it's not a uniform sight loss, but it's generally your peripheral vision goes first,
Right.
which is actually used to see at night. So that's kind of the first thing to go, right? You have trouble in dark, dimly lit places, transitioning from a sunny environment into a dark, you know, restaurant or pub or something like that.
Sure.
Is when you start to really notice it, and it really starts to affect you. And then it just kind of goes to tunnel vision, narrow and narrow usually.
Right.
And it's better in some because if you can hold on to that central vision, because that's really your what you read with, you know, that really like acute, like fine detail. If you can hold on to some of that, you'll be okay. You know, most people who are legally blind, who are blind or legally blind, actually have remaining vision. I think that's kind of a misperception that people have.
Right.
You know, you can still be legally blind and actually drive with certain corrective lenses and certain training. Yeah.
So how long did that for you? You know, you said it was hereditary. You're obviously born with the condition. So how long did that process take from being fully sighted to when you completely lost your sight?
To be completely blind, total blind, was only about 2 years, 2.5, about 2 years ago.
Right.
So you're talking, you know, 31 years.
Yeah. But you said that it got to the point
of being legally blind where it really affected my life was like my mid-20s, like mid to late 20s is when when I started to consider myself a blind person, when I stopped driving, when I wasn't able to, you know, even ride a bike, or at a certain, in the beginning, you know, I wasn't able to leave my house without being with another person.
Yeah.
You know, like couldn't walk around my own block, things like that.
And you have sort of talked about this a little bit before, because, you know, obviously you've got the physical challenges of coping with this new situation, like you just described, but the mental challenge is a very obvious thing to ask about, because, you know, it is a very obvious thing to say, but it's obviously like a completely life-changing event for you. But equally, it seems that what's really difficult from what you've said is another element is the way that people perceive you, because you go from being being Daniel, who's like a skater and who's perceived to be, I'm going to like use inverted commas, normal by people, but then suddenly you start getting judged upon the fact that you've lost your vision, and people start to treat you differently, and presumably that's the third element to this that's very difficult to cope with initially.
Yeah, that was the hardest element for me to cope with. I didn't have any trouble like transitioning into the day-to-day things, like cooking and doing stuff like that, the daily living skills as we call it. And that was, like I said, that's the hardest element, was the way people treated me differently. That's what started to kind of wear on me over time, and where I started to realize, like, okay, these people are affecting me and the way that I view myself.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like it's almost like a self-esteem thing, isn't it? Like that, So, and how do you cope with that then?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of over time, and a big part of it was getting some training, where I went to an organization called Leader Dogs for the Blind, who they actually prep people for and set people up with a leader dog. Those are like the classic dog you see with like the harness. It says, "Do not pet me," which I actually, I made t-shirts one time that said, "Don't pet me, I'm working." That's probably my favorite. Hope to have a board graphic that says that one day. Yeah. But, what was it? Oh yeah, that's where they do O&M training. It's called orientation and mobility. And that's using the white cane. Yeah. Because I had previously, once you put that cane in your hand, that's when you get the label, right? That's when people start to identify you as a blind person. In a major way, like out in public and stuff like that. And your family and friends see you with it, like, "Oh, you get the cane now, huh?" And it's like, yeah, it's weird at first. I had it for years. I had gotten one when I was legally blind, but I didn't touch it for years. So doing that and then getting that training was the first time I was in an actual environment that understood blindness. Right. You go and I lived there for like a week.
Okay.
And it was being around people who understand it and treat you normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that helped me really get a grasp of what visual impairment was and what blindness was, and that it just huge empowerment going through that program and getting some independence back, right? I got my travel back. I was able to be able to travel freely by myself and stuff like that. So having that and then getting that little bit of motivation, and really it was just that some of that self-confidence back helped me kind of just, I guess, really become, what I've become today in the public eye, right? Like this advocate or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That was the first step, and it was huge. So, I mean, I definitely have to say that's the number one thing I encourage anyone with the visual impairment who's going into that world is to reach out for services. They're all over the world. And it's all free, it's all there for you to take advantage of. It's a hard step to take, because it's accepting it and doing that. And people don't want to, it was hard, I had to leave for like a week, and live there. That's not easy for people to do who have families, who are still kind of working with jobs. I was in school and stuff like that. Well, I was working as the massage therapist at that point, actually.
Right.
That was it. That was the beginning, and that's where I started to shift that idea of, okay, I can't buy into these people's the way other people see me, or what they see me as, or what they think I'm capable of. Yeah. Sorry, I have a dog, and I don't know if you can hear that. There's a dog on the other side of the door going nuts.
Oh man, I've got a dog as well. I totally, yeah. understand that
I'm
one.
about to get a puppy Newfoundland, so that's going to be
Oh wow.
huge. Are you familiar with that breed?
Yeah, they're massive.
Yeah, that'll be a joy.
That'd be brilliant. I love those dogs. Yeah, yeah. My dog is currently asleep on the sofa. Just took him out for a quick walk before we did this to keep him chilled. Um, so could you say, going back to that topic, like, because I guess it sounds like you have to make the decision that you're not going to live your life on those terms. You know, you're going to decide that you're not going to be defined by this. Is that? Could you put it that way?
Yeah, that was a big part of it. And I wanted to really. That's when I decided that I wanted to change the misperceptions and the stigma attached to blindness. That's when I really made that jump to do that. I was doing a little bit of that, like on my Instagram at the time. You know, I would post things of me doing like random things, like what you wouldn't expect a blind person to do. It's like anything from, you know, beer pong to throwing darts or kicking a field goal or something like that.
Yeah.
I was doing that a little bit. I even my first time I got on a skateboard in a while. I filmed a little skate clip, doing a front board in a box and stuff like that. But then after that, training really motivated me to push that even further. And, you know, I was posting like a video a day at a time at a point there. So,
and that was a conscious decision that you made to be like, right, I'm going to like own this and kind of, you know, reclaim the stigma that you're describing.
Yeah. Redefine that of what it is to be blind. You know, the tag on my Instagram is blind and changing how people see. So that's the whole idea behind that.
Yeah. So when did you start thinking about skating again? Because, you know, you described earlier that obviously there was it sounds like there was a combination of circumstances in your life, the vision loss being the main one, clearly, that had made you put down the skateboard. But then what was it that made you, because, you know, like, I think that's what's so fascinating, as you will obviously know way better than me about the whole story. It's just so hard when you can see. so like deciding that you're going to pick up the skateboard again when you've lost your vision is just immediately, even that act is a hugely ambitious statement, isn't it? And it's a really sort of bold statement insofar as you're saying, I mean, you know, if you're going to try and change people's perception of blind people, that is a pretty good way of doing it. So was that like, did that come into it, or did you just miss skating and think, you know what,
I think that was kind of the catalyst for it. You know, posting that first video got a cool response. It got reposted on like the Tony Hawk, what was known as the Tony Hawk Foundation at the time. I think they changed their name to the Skate Park Project, I believe, or something like that. Right. But I got posted on there and I was like, oh, that's cool, you know. And at that time, I didn't think I would be able to get the same satisfaction or fulfillment out of skating as I did as being sighted. But just slowly, like, film a couple more videos and posting those, and then like, I mean, even going out and skating was way what I didn't think was really in something I wanted to do at that point, really.
Right.
But I guess that kind of, like I said, that was what fueled me to keep skating a little bit more and more. And then I guess eventually I just decided, like, man, you know what, I should. Oh, what the hell? I did an interview for Gencom, which is like this big, you know, East Coast.
Yeah, I know Gencom.
Yeah, kind of thing, which I had no idea what that was at the time.
Right.
I had been on a skating for, you know, 6+ years of just being on it and I have no idea what's going on. I still don't know what's going on. So it's I did that, and I filmed like a line doing something, and that got all kinds of great feedback. And then I was like, you know what, it would be cool to film a full part. and then I just, after going out and then actually finding another, because none of my friends skate anymore, really. The ones I grew up skating with, they all golf now. I fucking hate golf.
Yeah, that'll happen.
So many skaters golf now. It's crazy, but
yeah.
Yeah. Then I found a crew that I ride with now, like my buddy Steve and Randy and Corey and all these Adam, all these dudes I skate with. Just a younger, like a younger generation under me that are still out there getting it and filming and falling in love with that. Because that's what I loved kind of in the beginning was working towards filming like a full part. That's always my goal is to finish that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not always the funnest when you're doing it because I tend to take things a little too serious. So it can get a little out of hand, but when it's done and complete, man, that's the best feeling.
Yeah, there's some footage from back in the days, isn't there, of some full parts, like in the first phase of you skating. That's done the rounds. So yeah, you were fully into that side of it, weren't you, from an early age?
Yeah. Just because that comes from growing up watching the videos, watching.
Yeah, it's like parts and the ambition, get the part.
Yeah, you can look up Super Shoes. I think I have a part online somewhere on YouTube. Yeah, that's my last one. Full part. I think I filmed as a sighted person.
So then, when the second phase of skating, that's where it led to. When you started skating again, you like you say, you had this Jenkem thing, and you started having some traction on Instagram. You thought, right, I'm going to try and film a part being blind. Was that the goal?
Yeah, that was the goal, and it wasn't ever like be a sponsored skater. I was like, oh, maybe I can get some free boards or something. That's as far as I thought it would go. So I reached out to my favorite brand growing up, Real Skateboards.
Yeah.
And Jim reached back, and it was crazy. Talking with him and sending me some boards. Right around that time, Paul Shire from Adidas reached out to give me some shoes too. I was wearing some shoes in a clip. He's like, "I see you're wearing the Booze Knits." Sent me some, so I was like, I was happier than anyone in the world, to get hooked up from the brands that I loved as a kid, for sure.
Yeah.
And then Jim had talked about Action Realize is a like a thing that Real does about. They have it for all kinds of things. It's to raise money for any kind of sometimes it's for like cancer for somebody or something like that. It's just kind of just a way for them to give back. They think they like lose money half the time making these boards, but they were going to do a raised braille board to raise money for my foundation that I just started back then. Keep pushing to build a accessible skate park.
That's so rad.
And all that was just whirlwind of all that stuff happening. And just stoked me out, having somebody like Jim and Paul who like actually believed in me was the second catalyst in my skateboarding that pushed me. It still pushes me today past way past where I ever thought I would get, both on my board and off my board. So
that's amazing, man. So I guess that's, you mentioned your first experience of the industry. So this is obviously like a completely different experience second time around to be getting this support and helping you achieve these kind of wider goals, right?
Yeah, for sure. I always knew I always had an inkling that I should have moved to Northern California instead of Southern California. Because I'm just like, more like, up north. I grew up fishing, hunting up north and doing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it would have been a better fit. But I mean, Jim Thiebaud, familiar with him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend. I really want to get him on here, actually.
I didn't know how much of a legend he truly was. But that's just meeting him, man. He's all about just love, both loving each other and just the love of skateboarding, and sharing that with as many people as we can. So, and really respecting what skateboarding is, and just aligns with me and really guides me for sure. Just seeing what he's done and the way how he handles what skateboarding is and where it goes is very inspirational to me, and makes me fucking almost cry to know that there's somebody like that who loves and cares about skateboarding. It's rare. It's what I lost and what I fell off. That's what I lost in being in LA and stuff like that, those years when I was younger. So it reignited my fuel and my flame to that passion for skating and stuff. So big part of my life for sure.
That's what I was going to ask you next, actually. So, so now that you're skating again, how does that feel personally to be able to identify as a skateboarder to the extent as you obviously are, when presumably at one point you thought that was gone forever? That must feel amazing. Yeah,
it's the best, man. It's it's the only thing that really makes me happy, honestly. Aside from, family and stuff like that, but it's still, even that doesn't, honestly, it doesn't bring as much joy as skating can to me. So it's just the most important thing to me. When I'm not skating and out on my board and I don't feel like a skater, I just feel like shit. I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's brought that, everyone needs something to chase in life. Otherwise you're just lost, so having that is huge. I lost that for a while. And yeah, it's been crazy, man. It's, there was so much going on when I was just getting into skating again. I was going to school for some other stuff too, like finishing my undergrad to go for my master's, and I just recently finished all that stuff. And I can, it's only been about since maybe about 6 months where I've been able to 100% focus on just skating, and actually just live as a skateboarder, live off of skateboarding. So it's been wild.
Yeah, that's epic, man. That's so great. So can I ask you a few questions about like the actual process of skating for you? And, I'm sure you've talked about it a lot, but, I'll post some videos, and I've seen plenty of videos of the process, but it'd be super cool if you could talk me through it. So I guess it starts when you get to a spot, right?
Yep. Getting, mapping out the environment and figuring out what I can skate there at the spot. If there's anything I can even skate, stuff like that.
And is that like a physical thing then? Like you'll go around with the cane and kind of like map it out mentally so you can get a picture of it?
Yep. Walking it out. Exactly. Walking out the run up, the obstacle, and then the landing. Swiping my cane, big sweeps back and forth, figuring out if I land, if I need to veer left or veer right or what I got to do. It starts with that. And my skating is a lot different than it used to be. I skate so much slower, and I kind of have to start pretty close to an obstacle, especially if it's a ledge or something like that. If I want to get like technical and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gaps are really hard to skate because you got to start further away, and you have to go in a straight line, which is very hard to do, actually.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
And then timing that the drop and landing and all that stuff, and psyching yourself up to just jump off one is crazy. A lot more stressful than it used to be. It's gotten better though. With the early videos you saw of me skating with my cane, I had a little like the old videos you'll hear me talk about, I have like this little piece of vision in my right peripheral.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of have to look off to the left and I'd be able to pick up like shadows and stuff like that. Which helped like a lot as far as like orientating myself and knowing where I am. And then losing that was pretty scary. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to switch everything up and if I'd be able to even do what I did back then. And then the first thing I filmed as fully blind was actually for another Gen Con piece, actually.
Right.
Was last winter time, maybe the winter before. And that's when I learned my hand technique. So you'll see me reach down and touch the obstacle now.
Right.
And that was the missing link there that I needed to figure out. That really helped me get more technical. And I've done things now that I, didn't ever do even when I was sighted. So.
Right. That's rad.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. It's I still feel like I'm getting older. I feel like I'm running out of time and I'm not like I'm never gonna reach what I know that my true capability. I know that so much more can be done. I just need those years of practice and timing and stuff like that. So
yeah,
wish I was about 10 years younger for sure, but
don't we all?
Yeah, I'm doing what I can here to get as much done in this window,
I guess another question I've got about it is, have you had to change what feels good about skateboarding? That might sound like a strange question, but like obviously everyone.
No, for sure, yeah.
Everyone knows what when you do a trick and you do a trick sketchy, that feels a certain way. But then when you do a trick and you do it, in a way that you consider stylish or smooth or whatever, it's just a different thing, isn't it? And a lot of that is to do with sight when you're a skateboarder. So presumably,
I know when something's sketchy.
I don't really mean that though. Like I more mean like in terms of your internal process to what feels good. Do you know what I mean? Like how's that changed?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know when I land something off, even a little bit. But I used to skate a lot more transition, and I love going fast. My favorite thing was just cruising down a busy sidewalk in California, and weaving in and out of stuff, and I miss that a lot. That's the one piece that I'll never get back. So
yeah.
Had to change that. Like I said, I skate so much slower now. It sucks, annoying, but I can still bomb hills and stuff like with friends. But yeah, it's the speed that I miss for sure, and ripping around big bowls and stuff like that was always fun.
Yeah.
Which the bowl thing, I haven't had the motivation to get back into that, and I'm just focused on my ledge game right now, really, is what I've been into, trying to get as technical as I can. So maybe one day I'll get back into that side of it, but
yeah.
I mean, just cruising, using my board to run to the corner store or something like that. I miss that a lot.
Yeah.
That's not really something you can do.
No, and that's like one of the simplest pleasures of skating, isn't it? Just a roll, really, a roll around. Yeah. But you must be looking at your skating because everyone's got the mental list that they want to do. So what's that looking like for you? Like what are your ambitions for skating now?
God, definitely. I mean, the handrail is up there. I've been thinking about a rail for years, but I just haven't found the right one or really focused on it. I guess right now it's just getting as technical, flipping in, flipping out of things as much as possible, and then piecing lines together is so hard to do. When you're finding a ledge, doing a trick, figuring out where you're at, and then maybe finding another ledge or finding a stair set is probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And then there's some things I've knocked off for sure. I'll have a part coming out soon here within the next couple months of some cool stuff that I did like I said that I hadn't done even when I was sighted. So, yeah, man. But it's ever growing. You know, like I said, I just feel like I'm behind, and there's so much more that I can do. So, yeah, that's my focus, you know, being technical on ledges and rails, flat bars, and then eventually a handrail. So those are the big goals.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of it is crazy, really.
Yeah.
You know, like doing a handrail with no vision is definitely something anyone listening to this is going to be like, wow, okay, fair enough.
I have a buddy of mine actually just did one who's also blind. So I think he's
the guy in the Matters video that you did, the Red Bull one?
I don't think I could neither confirm nor deny that. We'll have to wait. He has a part coming out very soon that you'll be able to see it, and yeah, it'll be very obvious.
he rips. No
he
doubt.
rips. He that's my buddy Justin Bishop. He shreds transition so good, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like watching that, I was like, you know, wow, fair enough.
There's another dude, Nick Mullins, who's from Michigan. Actually, the first other blind skateboarder that I met,
right?
And he can skate mini ramp like unbelievable.
Really, like put lines together.
Oh yeah, like dope lines, like, you know, big spin 5.0s and nollie, all this stuff. Yeah, he's super good, dude. He's crazy.
Wow, that's so impressive, isn't it? That's just, yeah. So the other thing I was going to ask you about all this is, you know, as you mentioned, you know, you got a pretty big platform now, and the real opportunity with the advocacy that you talked about, and, you know, clearly the advocacy is really important to you through, you know, you mentioned the foundational stuff you've done and the stuff with Real, and, you know, where do you see that you could take that? Because it's a real opportunity, isn't it, to, like you say, to change perceptions in a really concrete way.
Yeah. I try not to take it very serious. My focus is to just keep doing and living the life I want to, and showcasing that. And I feel like that's what I did from the beginning, and that is really the best way, just to show people like, hey, this is blindness. I like my blindness to kind of be a backdrop in a sense, right? I'm just living my life, right? And yeah, but I mean, I with my nonprofit, I'm kind of combining what I've learned. Like I said, I went to school. I ended up getting my master's in what's called vision rehabilitation therapy,
right.
VRT, which is working with vision impaired and blind people, and teaching them the skills to be independent, right? All these daily living skills, from cooking, cleaning, shaving, maintaining a home, stuff like that. Like anything about living on your own and you know, regaining your independence, even working within like a job or a field. Things you need, like technology, all that stuff. So combining that with my skating, my nonprofit, Keep Pushing, I just teamed up with New Line Skate Parks. They design and build parks.
Right.
And they're designing a little mini adaptive park that I'm going to hopefully build soon, right adjacent to my house. I actually just purchased the deed to the land. There's a little sliver of land right next to me. And I'll put up a little, you know, accessible park, right? That will have like everything from, you know, audio things, speakers within objects, lights within objects, good contrast, lighting and stuff like that. And then combine that, like I said, with my VRT stuff, and I'll invite, you know, each year, you know, as many families as I can to come out and stay with me. with kids with visual impairments. And then, hook them up with, all the skate stuff, Adidas shoes and reel boards and stuff like that, and skate with them and share my knowledge of skating, and then also my VRT stuff of cooking together and doing all that stuff. So that's the big goal for 2021. And just kind of combining everything that I've worked towards as far as education and skating and all that stuff, and my influence to bring it all together to have that park and bring people out, and then share that, through social media and stuff like that.
Amazing.
That's the exciting thing I've kind of been working towards. So I've been crazy busy with it. So.
And it'd be pretty nice having a skate park next door.
And it's the training grounds, exactly, for my winners and stuff like that. It's definitely some selfish intentions behind there as well.
Yeah, not wrong with that, man. Not at all. And how's the podcast going?
Podcast is cool. Insighted podcast, it's called. That's been a learning curve, I think I'm 11 episodes in. I try to do one every week, and it's tough figuring out screen readers and what programs work with screen readers, and figuring out how to use a mixing board and all this stuff has been wild.
It's a lot. It is way more work than people realize, I think, doing them.
Yeah, they make it sound like, just get yourself a mic and you're good to go. It's like, no, there's more into doing it. But I'm the same as you. I record and I don't edit. It is what it is, and I post it up. I think I finally figured out how to get my audio decent. There's a couple episodes that are just shit, but the last couple I finally, and figuring out, also the content, having stuff to talk about, because it's just me a lot of the time, just talking.
You take listener questions, don't you, as well? And
listeners' questions.
Get contributions in and stuff like that. I feel that sometimes not knowing what to talk about. I just usually at the end of mine and the beginning just talk a right load of shit, and it seems to work cool. All right, man. Yeah,
it's fun though. I like it. It's cool, and it's just, for me, it's just another way to just show who I am. My blindness is kind of just talk about it quite a bit on there. But really it's just kind of a backdrop, tell funny stories about things that have happened to me with my blindness and stuff like that, and talk about skating a lot in the beginning. All that's good stuff. So,
Yeah, well, like you say, it's just another way of helping people understand that it doesn't need to define you, isn't it? Which seems to be the theme of what you've been talking about, really. The idea that, I think you put it really well. You have it as a backdrop rather than in the foreground. As do people still? This is a kind of silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you still find that there's a stigma, with now that you've personally,
absolutely
accepted it yourself? Does what do you put that stigma down to? Because I find that quite confusing to hear about. Is that because people don't know how to be with blind people?
Yeah, that's the number one thing. When I first was blind, I didn't know a single person who was blind or anything about it. And that's the average person, they don't know anything about it or what it's like to be blind. They just think he can't see, he can't do anything.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being blind. I wouldn't be able to do anything, Yeah. You think you can't even, in my field, you meet people who think that their grandpa who's losing their sight can't eat with silverware or a plate anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's crazy stuff like that. It's just that not knowing, and the education. It's slowly getting better for sure with social media and all these organizations and all the rights and stuff. But we've been fighting for equal rights since we started fighting, since our when we first fought for civil rights, accessibility for the disabled was a part of that. It just got, for all the right reasons and obvious reasons, it got outshined by civil rights. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
people being segregated and treated different because of the color of their skin. So, but there's been kind of another rise with that, just like every other group that feels marginalized nowadays with social media.
Yeah.
But there's been a change for sure.
So that's what I was going to ask. So you feel like there has been a change in the way that it's generally perceived by people?
Yeah, within certain echo chambers, I guess. I still, when I travel, it's just annoying the way people treat me differently. From the TSA to the security to people guiding me to places and Uber drivers and all this stuff. It's just those little interactions that just drive me nuts, where people just treat me different, and don't think I'm capable of doing simple things. Just really pisses me off. And so it's good, hopefully my platform keeps growing, and I can get outside of just the visually impaired world. Most people know me within that world, within the rehabilitation field and stuff like that. But when you get into day-to-day, everyday people, people don't know who I am. So hopefully I can get more into that and kind of just show, through my social media and stuff like that, hey, just treat me normal, like I'm still capable. You don't have to, change your verbiage around me or grab my arm and guide me and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the big goal. But yeah, I still see it for sure,
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things, isn't it, that people just like, I say people, us as humans, like we're really good at ignoring things that don't affect us and then just pretending that they don't exist, aren't we? It's like, it's because obviously it just shouldn't be a big deal because it's a reality for so many millions of people, thousands of people, whatever. And it, really we should be doing everything we can just to make it as normal as possible. But people just don't want to engage with things like that, do they? Because I guess that's their nature, is that if it's not bothering me, I don't have the time for it. People are, and I get it. I know there's, I always feel that I got it pretty easy compared to as far as even disabilities go, as race goes, anything like that. Like we got it pretty easy as a blind person for sure. There's bigger problems out there. And I get that. And that's why I don't, like I said, I try not to take my stuff too serious. I just live my life, and showcase that, I'm not out there like, really like advocating in a very, I guess like serious way. Like, I'm not at any, political level or anything like that of trying to get laws changed or anything like that. I just do what I can with my little bit of presence I have on Instagram. So yeah. Well, I think, like you say, just showing people that you're not defined by it is enough, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I hope. That's what I looked at. People like Aaron Weinmayer, who it's the blind guy person who's blind who climbed Mount Everest. Reading about stories like that, you're just like, oh no way, there's people out here doing it. And then to actually hear him talk is too. You don't see too many interviews with him, or I just like to hear. You just want to hear somebody who's blind. That's what I would have liked to hear more about when I was going through it. To hear somebody like me just talk and be like, oh. Eventually, you realize, oh, okay, I'm gonna it takes years to get used to it. I still am getting used to it in a lot of ways, but like it's just of coping with it, getting some training and being comfortable. That takes a little while, but you will get there, if you're working towards it. So, and you'll eventually figure your life out, because it especially losing like I did your vision later in life, is not fun to deal with. But being able to hear somebody like me, hopefully I can pass that on and be like, oh, a little bit of work, you can get there, and you can still do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to get you on here, man. So thanks so much for doing it. It's it's super interesting to chat to you about it all.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, like I appreciate you inviting me and spreading that message too, dude.
That's all good. All good, man. All good. We'll have a great trip to the West Coast now that you can leave again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll see for how long. Yeah.
So there you go. That was me and Dan, and I hope you enjoyed it. A lot to take in with that one, eh? I think what I found personally completely awe-inspiring about Dan's story is his humbleness and the way he's turned what was obviously such an awful and life-changing experience into something that can, he's obviously having the power to really change people's lives. So big thanks to Dan for coming onto the show and talking about his experiences so openly and honestly. Nice one. Thanks, Dan. So housekeeping corner. I'm just back from Cornwall, actually, where I went on a little post-quarantine trip, which was great. First time I've been back since pre-lockdown, when I went up there to interview Mikey Lay, James Otter, Steve England, Gwyn Haslock and Chris Hines. A Cornish omnibus, if you will. All those episodes you can find in my archive. I was up there hosted once again by my friends at the Watergate Bay Hotel. Thanks very much. Great trip as usual. Can't wait to go back. Really love it up there, down there even. And I was also recently a guest on another podcast. I've been doing a few of them recently, which was part of the Citizen of Winter online festival, which was organised by a few of the grassroots sustainability groups that have popped up in the French Alps over the years. One Tree at a Time, that's one of them. Montagne Verte, which is another one. Bluebird Snow Exchange, which is the third. Anyway, they have all got together to organise this online festival of ideas. And it's really exploring the issues of sustainability and winter sports. Is such a thing possible? And they had me on as a guest because they did a big run of podcasts with lots of different people. And yeah, it was a really interesting conversation with host Gavin Fernie-Jones about sustainability in the mountains, the need for strong leadership, and some of the simple steps we can take to make some effective changes in our lives. If you've listened to Type 2, I did cover some themes that I talk about quite frequently on that podcast. Anyway, if you want to have a listen, you can find the link to this one over on my Instagram bio at We Look Sideways if you want to have a gander. Give us a follow while you're at it, eh? And the themes me and Gav chatted about, like I say, covered frequently on Type 2, my podcast with Patagonia, and they're also pretty similar to themes that my close friend and recent podcast guest Lauren McCallum covered in her latest blog, Segway Alert, for the Looking Sideways website. She covered the 5 simple changes you can make. It's a good one. Head on over to www.wearelookingsideways.com where you'll find this and plenty more blog entries from previous guests such as Chaz Smith, Matt Warshaw, Lauren Hill, Ben Mundy, James Otter, Tim Baker. There's a lot of them up there. You'll also find the full archive of episodes, the show notes, and all the rest of it. It's a big old resource to get stuck into. So yeah, have a look. Let me know if you like what you see. All right, that's it for this week. Shorter housekeeping corner than usual, but that's fine. I just haven't got a lot to talk about this week. I'm sure I'll be waffling on, as I always do, after the next episode. If you do want to get in touch, actually, I realised I've got episode 150 coming up pretty soon, and I'd be interested to hear how I should mark that. I've always been marking these milestone episodes with carefully chosen guests. So yeah, let me know what you think. You can get me at podcast@wearelookingsideways.com or over at We Look Sideways on Instagram, like I've been saying. All right, that's it for this week. Nice one. See you later.